a fighter gets prepared for one of his big fights, and his very young coach applies cream on his body to help him receive potential body punches better, while also managing his frame in a way that lifts his morale. His opponent, Sayok, steps onto the stage, and they begin exchanging blows and kicks with aggression. Billy charges at him whenever he sees an opening, but he still ends up on the ground. His constant rushing gets him into trouble, and Sayok corners him, knocks him down, and keeps punching him. With the fighter still on the ground, Sayok is declared the winner, and the loser immediately protests, assaulting the referee right there in the ring. He insists the win was handed out too early and that he still had a chance to turn things around, and it takes a group of people to pull him away from the official. That same evening, at the club, the antagonist meets a man in the restroom, and after receiving some cash, he gives the man a very small, sweet-like package. Back in the club, strippers are scattered around the floor as they entertain guests, and Billy watches for a while before walking out, taking steps like a gangster. He's at home when the police come banging at his door, and he panics as he looks for ways to hide any contraband. He even hides a few of them between his legs, thinking quickly in the moment. The officers break down the door and find him standing there in just black underwear, which gives him a bit of space to escape. The men in uniform speak in their own language, but their target keeps protesting that he can't understand them, and they rough him up as they drag him into the van that's parked on the street. He's taken straight to jail, and the first thing he does is use the toilet to force out the substance he had shoved up earlier. Billy gets transferred to a more secure facility with other inmates, and they're put through a strict inspection process. Officers check their ears, throat, and mouth to make sure nothing illegal gets inside. While he's getting his mugshot, now going by William, one of the officers hands him a white substance quietly, without making a fuss. As part of the standard intake, all their heads and beards are shaved before they're sent to their individual cells. The older inmates give the new ones a loud welcome as they enter, and the place is already packed with people. Some residents throw taunts at them, maybe trying to provoke something. William is sick, and he's noticed by Tiffany, a cross-dresser, who lets him lie down in their space for the time being. The convicted man lays there without saying anything, groaning in pain, tossing around, and nearly ends up lying on a lifeless body beside him without even realizing it. It's Tiffany who points it out, and then the guards come to carry the body away. A prison warden reads out the rules to all the inmates, saying they're not allowed to gamble, smoke, or get tattoos while staying there. The cell conditions are so bad that everyone sleeps with their bodies crammed like sardines because there isn't enough space to spread out. The next morning, the crowd of inmates wakes up to the tight, noisy reality of prison life. Everyone has a plastic bottle, each person trying to get the source of water. Billy is already at the front when someone just keeps shoving him, so bad that he turns around and tells the person off, rather aggressively before retreating through the crowd, pushing his way through. Hands keep flying too to push him back, some quite unprovoked, his body swaying this way and that until he unleashes his anger on the nearest target in front of him, ready for a fight if that's the case. The other man looks like he's ready for a full-on brawl, but the guards gather fast and their focus shifts straight to Billy, the obvious spark in the mess. Not long after, he's marched across the open yard and shoved into a cell so small a dog would probably file a complaint. Solitary confinement taken to its most literal form, where all he can really do is squat in the dark and peek through the tiny window that generously offers a view of the field he's no longer allowed to walk on. Later, Billy ends up in a new section of the prison with a few others, where a group of Thai men stand out, not just by presence, but by the layers of ink covering their bodies like uniforms. It's clear they aren't just any inmates, as they look like their own department. There's a language gap wide enough to fall through, but the leader breaks through with just enough English and gesticulations to start asking questions. While the others watch Billy like they've just tuned into a strange TV channel, Kang throws out questions that slowly piece together the story. Billy's a penniless boxer, and he somehow landed in the wrong place for possessing magic items he definitely should have left wherever he found them. Next thing he knows, he's asked to drop and give 20, surrounded by men who touch him while he's down. When he tries to retaliate, he's threatened and reminded that it's many against one, so he lowers himself again and continues the push-ups while protesting that he would prefer they stop poking him like a toy. Eventually, they lose interest in him, and he's pushed to a corner under strict orders while the next newbie he is called in for questioning. At least he briefly gets to enjoy a smoke before things get really noisy and tense. Two members want to settle their disagreement in a fight, but Kang steps in and quiets things down. At night, Billy gets up to use the bathroom at an unfortunate moment. Suddenly, he's confronted and restrained by someone who threatens him. Helpless to intervene, he's forced to witness Kang and another person victimize a defenseless man who begs them to stop throughout the ordeal. When it's over, the mistreated guy scurries back to his position on the floor while the witness is firmly warned to keep his mouth shut or face consequences. Back on the floor, he finds him shivering, like he's sick to his stomach, sleeping far away now. The next morning, the paramedics step in to remove an inmate's body from the cell. It's the defenseless man from the previous night, and while the officials work, one of the perpetrators silently dares Billy to say a word. After that incident, the foreigner drags himself to the infirmary and asks for something simple, just some painkillers, but he's told no. Not because the place has run out, but because he doesn't have money. He tries to argue the item is his right, and he's seen it handed to several guys before him, but the man in charge plays stubborn. That's when something in him unhooks. He charges at the nearest staff member, throwing fists and shouting until someone falls beneath him. Then he sinks his teeth into the man's neck and pulls. The victim shrieks, staggering off, and the fighter backs into a corner, mouth slick with the color red like he's wandered off the set of a zombie flick. Berserk Billy starts yelling, chest heaving, asking who's next, but the guards don't flinch as they've seen this before. They close in, knock him to the ground, and the batons do the rest. Everything he said, lost under the crack of impact. Word spreads fast. After that, the officers never treat him like just another inmate. He becomes a risk, the type they don't take chances with. His wrists get chained to his ankles, even when the rest of the cell block walks around free. The only time they unlock him is for shower duty, and even then, he and the others use those brief, wet moments to sneak blunts around the edges of the bathroom where the staff don't bother looking too hard. It's not like there's much else to look forward to. On some days, women inmates show up to deliver supplies, and the men press up behind a thin iron net just to see them. Most keep their eyes to themselves, but the Brit makes a habit of calling out to one in particular, Fame. He thanks her for what she's done for him in the past, especially after the last time things got rough. Then he asks for a favor, a pack of cigarettes. His crush tells him it won't happen if he can't pay, but he pleads, promises to settle it within a week. So she agrees eventually, and that's when they properly introduce themselves for the first time. He doesn't smoke the cigarettes himself. Instead, he trades them off in quiet deals, using them to get the real thing, something stronger and most definitely not allowed. While most residents stick to their own patterns, a few work on something different. One night, a group silently removes a blade from one of the fans overhead. Everyone's asleep when the alarm blares. The entire block is dragged out to the yard, and it's clear from the guards' faces that something bad's happened. But it's not another inmate this time, it's 3 officers, all gone. Searches begin immediately. Mouths, sleeves, waistbands, nothing's overlooked. When they get to him, they find evidence tucked inside a shirt they claim is his. He protests loudly, saying it's not his, as the shirt's too small. The boxer even forces it on to prove his point. From somewhere nearby, another inmate calls out, urging him to confess like he's playing cheerleader to a tragedy. But one of the officers, more seasoned than the rest, watches the scene play out and sees it for what it is. He orders the loudmouth taken away for questioning, maybe worse. As the man's dragged off, a few others shoot glares at the foreigner, and they don't look away. Billy doesn't need anyone to say it, as he knows eyes like that mean trouble. At the dining hall, he runs into the bearded officer who feeds him his supply. The deal goes through, and he finds a quiet corner where he lights up and forgets things for a while. When he comes back to it, our antagonist heads toward the group that had been staring earlier. He's not looking to fight, so he keeps things light, talking like someone offering handshakes, not trouble. But it doesn't go over well, not until another prisoner steps in and shifts the weight of the moment. Later on, there's another meeting with the bearded man. This time, the foreigner's got fire in his throat and insults spilling out, but the officer couldn't care less. He lays it out again that if the boxer wants more, he has to earn it. A few inmates are bad for his side hustle, and he wants them handled. The fighter doesn't argue, as his mind is slipping, and he knows it. He says he'll do anything, as he just needs something to hold on to. Something now. The officer gives him a nod, and the deal is sealed once again. After finishing his smoke, the bruiser heads straight to the kitchen, with no questions and warnings. He doesn't waste a second on talk or threats. preferring to just start swinging. Fists land like hammers, and the two brothers fold under the weight of it, taking a full beating while the officer leans in the corner, watching like it's a casual show. When it's over, the man in uniform finally steps in, not out of concern, but because things almost tip too far. He pulls the fighter aside and mutters a low scolding, not for the violence itself, but for how close it came to permanent damage. He'd asked for a reminder, not a lifelong limp. Later, in the open-air bathroom where the men scoop water from a wide cement reservoir, the bruised fighter finally breaks. He doesn't say a word, just crouches by the wall, shoulders shaking as the tears come. No one knows for sure if it's the weight of the place pressing down, the haze of whatever still lingers in his system, or something much older clawing its way back up. But the sobs don't stop. They just keep coming, steady and quiet, like a leak in something that was never fully sealed. That night, he doesn't fight sleep. He lets it come slow and uneven, lying flat and staring into the dark. After a while, something inside him seems to give way. He turns from the noise of the cell, curling in on himself, trembling but silent. The air around him feels colder than usual, and his breathing starts to slow, not tired, but distant. One of the men catches it, sensing something off, and starts yelling for help. But by the time anyone reaches him, he's already unresponsive. It's visiting day. Families file in, waiting at their separate tables. He's still recovering, but awake now, sitting stiffly in his seat, when a surprise visitor shows up. It's his old coach, just a boy still, really, all bright eyes and hopeful news, telling stories about fights he's won lately, how he's getting better, and how he misses the old training days. The boxer doesn't say a thing, only staring and letting tears slide down again that there's no need to hide. After that visit, things shift. Billy starts getting up early, shadowboxing in the cell. His movements are stiff but consistent, and the others watch but don't interrupt. He doesn't talk as much, nor does he flare up either, training instead, always slow and steady. One day, a scuffle nearly breaks out between a few inmates, but Kang, heavily tattooed, quiet when he wants to be, steps in. He spreads his arms, frustrated, and tells them off. Says there's no point in fighting each other. None of them put the others in here, so why act like enemies? They don't argue. Eventually, MC finds another section of the prison, a hall where real fighters train. But when he tries to step in, the door's slammed on him. The man in charge won't even let him speak. Every request is shut down, every offer to help is waved off. He tries again, and each time, the trainer's tone gets sharper until it's almost a roar, telling him to get lost. During the next supply run, he finds Fame again. She's cold this time, her arms crossed before he even speaks, bringing up the pack he never paid back. So he apologizes fast, explaining that the past week nearly broke him. Billy says he needs another one, just one more pack, this time to buy his way into the training room. Also mentions he's trying to change. She watches him for a moment, then gives him the cigarettes without another word. That same day, he hands them over and gets a nod that he's finally allowed inside. Training doesn't last long before he's shoved into the ring. He's rusty and moves like someone who remembers what to do but hasn't done it in years. His opponent sees the openings and lands hit after hit. Nothing dirty, just precise. It's a beating, but one that wakes him up. Later, Ken gathers a few men and they sit around like some kind of war council without the table. One by one, they introduce themselves and talk about what they're good at. Everyone speaks in Thai except for the foreigner, who says plain and proud in English that he's a boxer. Trust that the whole group laughs. Not to mock, but because somehow the way he says it feels like both a truth and a punchline. If confidence could win fights, that line alone would have earned him a belt. Next day, he's back in training. Only this time, the punches are loud. With each strike, he lets out a scream like something is tearing loose from inside. He doesn't notice the small crowd that's gathered. Doesn't care who's watching. By the end, he's standing still in the center, fists shaking, tears running again. No one says anything, because maybe this time it's not just pain leaving his body, but everything else too. The inmates gather around to organize a fish fighting tournament. Most place bets of cigarettes on their preferred winner, and cheers rise as the fish thrash around in battle. When MC's fish finally wins, the guy in charge, same one who nearly fought him after the officer deaths, refuses to pay up. He accuses him of rigging the fight, but Kang sees through it, calling for the winnings to be handed out. And just like that, MC's stash grows. He now has enough to refund Fame, and he does that quickly, with an apology tacked on. She already has a soft spot for him, and doesn't make it hard. They find a quiet place to talk, and that's where he tells her the truth. He does have family, but none of them know where he is. His new friend opens up too, with her story heavier. Her dad beat her like it was a sport, and one day, she snapped. That's how she landed in prison. She tells it plainly, but the tears still come, and they share a hug that lingers, and the air shifts. When they break, she laughs a little, soft and shy. The kind of laugh that always comes right before something changes. Soon, she's sitting on his lap with their faces brushing. Her arms are around his neck, and his head is resting just on her chest. Their breathing gets faster, and their eyes say the rest. There's no rush, just tension and want thick enough to slow time. He's back to training after that, and almost turns the session into a fight when he goes too hard on the pad holder. The trainer steps in to calm him, and when things settle, he's weighed. The trainer calls it out, 78 kilograms. Not bad, someone mutters, for a man carrying more than just weight. The prison boxing tournament kicks off, and Billy is already in the ring, trading blows with a fierce opponent. The crowd's getting a good show, but it's clear Billy's taking more hits. One punch lands hard enough to make his ear bleed, and by the time round 4 starts, his eye is swollen shut, definitely giving stung by a bee energy. He doesn't throw as many punches, but that's because he's picking his shots carefully, aiming for places that score higher. The fight becomes more of a chess match than a brawl, even though his opponent keeps hammering him with heavy blows. Still, Billy starts to knock him down again and again. It's a proper back and forth. But in the end, the one with more control and stamina wins. He gathers what strength he has left, lands a clean hit to the guy's face, and follows it with a string of punches that finally drop him to the floor. The crowd goes wild. As the winner walks back to his corner, cheers follow him. Even the women from the other wing are clapping, Fame included. The officers are there too, seated and surprisingly supportive, giving polite applause like they're at a school play and not a prison fight. The whole prison feels lighter that day, gloomy moments taking a break. The confined men even splash around in the reservoir. No one bothers pretending it's just a normal day. Later, Officer Precha calls Billy into his office. He's impressed and says he wants the fighter to represent the prison at the national tournament coming up in 2 months. But first, Starboy will be transferred to the boxing cell where he can train around the clock with the others. It also means he'll get some of the privileges that come with being part of the boxing team. Billy doesn't hesitate and agrees immediately. Before he goes, Precha hands him a letter from his father, making the receiver stare at it for a second, stunned. He'd always assumed no one even knew where he was, let alone cared, but he takes the letter anyway and leaves with something faint and fragile building inside him. Maybe hope. That same day, he gets moved to the new cell. Some of the guys watch him leave, and their faces are a mix of pride, envy, and something in between. In the boxing cell, things feel different right away. The others welcome him without question, like he's one of their own. At dinner, the conversation turns to the crimes that brought them all here. His last opponent speaks first, saying he went to prison after covering for his girlfriend, but the pressure of a 5-year sentence messed with his head. He ended up kebabbing 3 people, which turned 5 years into 13. Now, he's just trying to survive long enough to make it out. Another guy says he became a hitman because his family was too poor to eat. He only made it through 2 jobs before he got caught and locked up for life. Everyone has a story, but one thing stands out. Billy's the only one without a tattoo, so they gather around him like it's a ceremony, and he offers up his back without resistance. The tattoo artist, who's also a prisoner, says something in Thai that sounds almost sacred, and everyone holds still like they're taking a group photo for an album called Now That's What I Call Regret. Then the needle starts buzzing and the ritual begins. Training continues, and the coach keeps pushing the fighter harder. One day, he spots something off with the guys kicking. A small flaw, but once he points it out, the fighter adjusts fast. He tries again, gets it right, and earns a round of applause from the others watching. This block stays pretty calm. There's hardly any chaos now because everyone's got their heads down, focused on getting better. After long training days, the fighter's found his own way to cool off. Quiet time with the girl. They meet somewhere tucked away, and things move fast. Somehow, they've become lovers in the middle of prison. Another day, a small brawl breaks out in the block, but he doesn't get involved, as his mind's been playing tricks on him lately. Instead, he storms off to where the girl keeps her stash, and that's when he sees another man in there with her. That's all it takes. He snaps, even after she tries to explain it's nothing, and makes a mess of the whole thing, yelling loud enough for the guards to come running. He's still fuming by the time he gets back in the ring. In there, he tells his partner to hit him again and again, but the guy doesn't take the bait. That makes it worse because the angry man lashes out and punches the man without warning. Others rush in to pull him off, and the officers haul him away to solitary. He cools down there and comes back quieter. Back in the block, the man he attacked isn't ready to let things go. It almost turns ugly again, but Billy keeps apologizing until it finally breaks. The tension lifts. Training starts up again, and this time, everyone's behind him. They want him sharp before the big tournament. Evenings feel lighter now, and the guys in the cell joke around, toss pillows at each other, run back and forth like kids with nothing else to do. All the grudges seem to fade. One night, Fame comes in with two others and starts playing music. The second she walks in, Billy's whole face shifts and starts glowing. The performance from her seems like a perfect makeup time for them, and they find themselves staring at each other quite lustfully. Before she takes her leave, the fighter is scrubbing off sweat in the shower when trouble arrives. A crew of hard-faced inmates strolls in, led by one with a permanent smirk and a syringe tucked in his waistband. They don't waste time and go straight to ask for money. Still dripping, the young man promises he'll have it after his next match, as he's representing the block in the tournament after all. But patience isn't one of their virtues. They surround him, jabbing fingers into his ribs, taunting, laughing, then yanking a cloth over his head like they're about to baptize him in pain. The beating that follows is brutal, and just when he thinks it's over, the worst of them rolls up his sleeve. He draws his own blood and lets the fighter know he's infected with HIV, sounding it as a warning that either he wins the fight and comes back with cash, or next time, they'll mix blood with blood. Back in the cell block, he keeps his mouth shut, not mentioning it to the coach or anyone else. But silence doesn't cover bruises, and the trainer catches the stiffness in his movements almost instantly. The punches come slow, and his footwork looks like it's moving through syrup. He brushes it off, but when no one's watching, he bolts to the bathroom. There, he vomits blood into the sink and doubles over, clutching his side like he's holding in a secret. Eventually, gravity wins, and he collapses onto the cold tile floor, sweat pooling beneath him. The infirmary confirms what the pain already said: internal damage that's bad enough to stop a man in his tracks. If he keeps fighting or keeps using, he won't walk out next time. But walking away was never his style. So when the tournament day arrives, Billy suits up with the rest, boards the bus, and hides the winces every time the wheels hit a bump. At the visiting prison, he puts on his game face, but alone in the locker room, he clutches his ribs and whispers something that sounds like a prayer or a curse. When he steps into the ring, cheers scatter from his side, but the other camp rains down boos. His opponent enters with the swagger of a man who thinks he's already won. Both men perform their pre-fight rituals, part dance, part superstition, and then the bell rings. From the start, it's a war of equals. The fighter holds his own, using kicks to dominate the early exchanges. At one point, he knocks his rival to the mat, and for a second, it seems like he might coast through. But that's the thing about fights. They change fast. The other brawler gets up and finds his rhythm, hammering punches into the bruised man's ribs until he drops. While he's still on the ground, the opponent digs one more punch into his side, and sends pain crackling through his body like electricity. The round ends, but tempers flare. A kick lands after the bell, and for a moment it feels like the whole ring might explode. Now the other side smells blood. Next round begins, and the strategy is clear. Target the wound. Each strike to the gut chips away at his resolve, and he stays standing, but barely. His punches grow sloppy with his blocks late. Every breath is a gamble. Still, he remembers one thing. Back in the cell, the coach had drilled a move into him. It's an elbow strike saved for moments just like this. When his opponent lunges, all pride and no caution, the broken man pivots, spins, and drives his elbow into the side of the rival's head. Down he goes. The referee counts down to victory, and the crowd erupts, some cheering, some stunned silent, but the champion doesn't hear any of it. He vomits blood again, his knees give out, and his body shakes uncontrollably. Medics rush in, followed by oxygen mask. When he wakes up, it's quiet. For the first time in years, he steps out onto a street with no shackles holding him back, but halfway down the road, he stops, turns around, and returns to the hospital, choosing not escape, but responsibility. Eventually, he's sent back to serve what's left of his time. Only this time, someone's waiting for him. His father has come to see him. After 3 years, Billy is transferred, moved from Thailand to the UK, and not long after that, he's shown mercy with his sentence suspended by royal pardon. Now, he works from the other side by staying clean, training others, and helping men who are still battling the things he barely survived.